Your roadmap to the latest in auto. Welcome to Highway Herald, where we break down the gears of global change in the EV world. In a stunning turn of events, Brazil has redirected its critical mineral exports from once reliable shipments to the United States straight into China's high-voltage supply lines. This isn't just a minor trade shuffle. It's a full-throttle redirection that threatens to stall American EV ambitions and supercharge Beijing's battery dominance. Let's pop the hood on how this global realignment happened, and why it's revving up serious consequences for the future of electric vehicles. Brazil's quiet detour. How a trade pivot redefined EV supply lines. This story didn't explode onto the global stage. It crept in quietly like a cargo ship silently altering its route in the night. Brazil, once a reliable source of lithium, nickel, and rare earth elements for American automakers, began diverting those critical minerals toward China instead. So what caused this quiet but seismic shift? It wasn't random. It was pure strategy. While Washington was busy tightening trade restrictions and debating tariffs, Beijing was busy building bridges, literally and figuratively. Years of groundwork, from infrastructure investment to financial incentives and diplomatic courtship, positioned China as Brazil's new go-to partner. The results? Game-changing. Brazil's Lithium Valley now powers Chinese gigafactories at record speed. Lithium that once helped build Teslas is now fueling BYDs. Nickel, formerly earmarked for Detroit, now energizes Shanghai. Why did Brazil choose China? Simple. No tariffs, faster infrastructure upgrades, and long-term purchase guarantees. The US came with too many strings, complex regulations, and shrinking margins. By the time America reacted, China had already sealed billion-dollar deals. The EV race isn't just about innovation anymore, it's about access. And right now, Beijing controls the very soil that powers the world's electric future. But Brazil's pivot didn't just leave the US scrambling. It exposed a major weakness in America's industrial game plan. America's supply chain breakdown. Tariffs that derailed an industry. What began as a well-intentioned move to protect American industry ended up crippling it. US tariffs on critical mineral imports, aimed at encouraging domestic production, pushed Brazil, a key supplier of lithium and nickel, straight into China's arms. Automakers like Tesla, GM, and Ford, heavily reliant on Brazilian minerals for EV battery production, suddenly faced skyrocketing costs and shrinking supplies. The bigger problem? The US wasn't ready to fill the gap. Domestic lithium mining projects were still years from becoming operational, and processing infrastructure was woefully inadequate. There was no backup plan. Meanwhile, China offered Brazil attractive trade terms: no tariffs, faster infrastructure, and long-term stability. Brazil responded by redirecting its exports to China, triggering production delays and rising costs for US automakers. Layoffs and factory slowdowns followed, spreading economic pain from assembly lines to shipping and supply networks. Adding to the challenge, China's dominance over Brazil's mineral output gave it global pricing power, squeezing competitors even further. In short, protectionist policies without groundwork backfired. And unless the US adapts quickly, it risks stalling out in the accelerating global EV race. Before we delve deeper, we'd appreciate it if you could subscribe to Highway Herald. Your support fuels our passion to create more content like this. Hit that bell so you don't miss what's next. Because while the US stalled out, China was already laying the foundation for its next big move. China's strategic masterstroke? Building an EV empire from the ground up. While the US focused on trade debates, China quietly built the foundation for EV dominance. Long before electric vehicles became a global priority, China was investing in every link of the supply chain, from mining to manufacturing. At the heart of this strategy was Brazil. Since 2018, China has poured money into Brazilian mines, ports, railways, and refineries, creating a streamlined logistics network to funnel critical minerals like lithium and nickel directly into Chinese EV factories. The centerpiece is BYD's direct access to Brazil's Lithium Valley. With no middlemen involved, China now enjoys complete vertical integration, from resource extraction to battery production, cutting costs and boosting efficiency. Even trade logistics have been optimized. China and Brazil now transact in yuan and reals, bypassing the US dollar to reduce friction and delays. But China's strategy isn't just economic, it's geopolitical. By funding infrastructure and development, China has embedded itself in Brazil's economic framework, gaining long-term influence. Now, China controls the upstream market and sets the pace of global EV innovation. The takeaway is clear. While others hesitated, China secured the future of electric mobility. But that economic acceleration isn't without environmental consequences, and Brazil's ecosystems are showing the where. Brazil's high-speed growth versus environmental redline. Behind Brazil's booming exports to China lies a hidden cost: massive environmental degradation. As demand for minerals, beef, and soy skyrockets, Brazil's natural ecosystems, especially the Amazon and Cerrado, are under serious threat. This isn't a minor trade-off, it's an ecological gamble. Deforestation has surged, particularly in Para and Mato Grosso, with 90% of Amazon forest loss tied to cattle pasture expansion. Even if only a fraction of beef is exported to China, rising domestic prices fuel land grabs and illegal clearing. Mining adds to the pressure. Many new extraction zones overlap with indigenous lands and protected reserves. Roads and railways built to support mineral exports often open access for logging and settlement, further accelerating destruction. While Brazil has sustainability programs like the ABC Plus plan, enforcement is weak. Rural credit often supports environmentally harmful operations, and there's no required tracking of the environmental impact of exports like Boy China beef. China's rapid infrastructure investment has enabled fast growth but ignored environmental safeguards. If Brazil doesn't balance profit with protection, it risks becoming a cautionary tale, sacrificing its irreplaceable ecosystems for short-term economic gain. And as Brazil deals with ecological fallout, the rest of the world faces an even bigger question: who now controls the future of electric vehicles? Global shockwaves: how one trade shift is reshaping the EV race. Brazil's decision to reroute its mineral exports to China isn't just a trade shift. It's reshaping the global electric vehicle playing field. China's control over critical materials like lithium and nickel is strengthening, while the United States scrambles to reclaim a lead it once held. This shift exposes a core weakness in global supply chains: overdependence. When a country relies too heavily on a single supplier, its energy transition becomes vulnerable to geopolitical shifts. For the US, once heavily reliant on Brazil for minerals, the consequences have been sharp: higher costs, limited access, and increased strategic risk. The solution lies in reshaping strategy. America must ramp up domestic mining, strengthen alliances with mineral-rich nations like Australia and Canada, and invest in battery recycling to reduce dependence on raw imports. But these moves take time and billions in investment. Meanwhile, China is racing ahead. Its vertically integrated system, from Brazilian mines to its own EV factories, gives it pricing power and long-term security. Europe, while advancing in EV tech, lacks China's mineral scale and consistency. Unless global rivals act quickly, China's grip on the EV future could tighten beyond reach. Final lap. Can the US regain its position, or is it too late? What began as a simple trade shift has become a turning point for electric mobility. Brazil's pivot to China reflects long-term vision and investment, something the US, bogged down by trade policies and sluggish rollout, is now scrambling to match. The path forward exists, but it requires urgent policy change and international cooperation. Without both, America risks falling behind in a race it once led. So what do you think? Can the US still regain its edge in the EV mineral race? Should Brazil be held accountable for its environmental cost? And who's really steering the EV future? Washington, Beijing, or someone else entirely? If you found this video insightful, be sure to subscribe to Highway Herald for the latest vehicle updates and in-depth analyses. Your support helps us bring you the best in automotive content. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Check out the next videos on your screen for more insights and updates from the road ahead.